Mrs. Danielle DeVita back with another video. I overheard someone say that marriage is overrated. A lot of women say, I like the strong silent type. Well, a lot of men like the feminine silent type. And for sure, it's going down. So a lot of times people are not getting the when to speak and when to be quiet is one of the most powerful. She's going to be aggressive, thinking that. And as someone who's been married for 12 years, she's driven, not lazy. And this will make yourself and get on the right path. That understand that you might be doing a disservice to your daughter if you don't help her understand vetting and proper decision making. Now she's going to be a basket case later. If you don't help her understand emotional intelligence, she's going to hold on to a lot of emotional baggage. If you don't. We live in a world where femininity, marriages, family, and courting is no longer valued. We live in hookup culture, situationships, and struggle love. The number one reason women struggle in long-term relationships, number one, femininity, and number two, staying in a relationship or entertaining people longer than the woman should. My name is Danielle DeVita, and I'm a relationship and femininity coach. I've been married for 12 years, and I want to help you get on your feminine journey and vet for the right man today. For more of my content, you can visit MrsDanielleDeVita.com, or you can go to YouTube, Instagram, or my Facebook page. Get on your feminine journey today. Welcome to another live with Mrs. Danielle DeVita. So we are live here on Facebook and on YouTube. So if you've come from Instagram, I don't do live streams there anymore, but you can follow me. It's a stream, and I'm trying to switch over because a lot of things are going on with StreamYard that I'm not liking. So if you do have if you see any technical difficulties, so I do help both men and women. And I'm going to do a quick segment today talking about how to handle mother-in-laws. And I'll even go as far as saying, even if you're not married, how to handle your partner's mother. Because I know there's a lot of issues going on with that. Now, I can say personally, I have not had any issue. My mother-in-law, I've been married for over 12 years, been with my husband for 15, and I haven't had any issues. But there are some things that I think you should know if you do, or if you're, have a partner, you're either dating and there's some issues with the mother, or if you are married. I think that if you are also a man, so this isn't just like the daughter-in-law and the mother-in-law issue. This could be a a son and his mother-in-law, because typically it's the mothers that kind of have the issues with the other spouse more so than a father, at least from what I know, because mothers are sometimes, whether they have a son or a daughter, they could be a little bit protective and things like that. And they have a lot more input than fathers would. So I'm going to go over just a few things. Now, if you have any comments that you'd like to see, you can go ahead and put them in the comment section. I have a comment section that you can type in. If you'd like to get on camera, you can use our StreamYard link, and I have that. I just posted, so you'll be able to see that. And I also have a phone number you can call. So if you're the kind of person that'd rather call rather than going on camera or, putting something in the comment section, you can do that. You should be able to see a number, which is 813-816-1813 at the bottom of the screen. All right, so here we go. The first thing I would say that you need to have is a conversation with your partner. That's the first thing you should have. So if you're having an issue with your partner's mother, or if you're married, the mother-in-law, you really should talk with your partner first. I think that that's essential because, one, they may not know what's happening, and two, even if they are aware, you can kind of state your grievances. I think sometimes when we bottle things up, it becomes worse. because then we take that rage out once we had enough. So it's good to have that kind of conversation like, hey, these are a few things that's going on and I'd like to talk to you about it. This is how I'm feeling. Now, when I'm not talking about every single time you have this conversation, but you want to get it out the air. That'll be the first thing. So the other person will know. The reason why it's important for your spouse or your partner to know how you're feeling is because then the next step would be to then talk with the mother-in-law, both. So either your partner will talk to his or her mother, and then you will have a talk, not at the same time, but they will say, hey, this is my wife or my husband, this is, and I want you to respect them, this is my partner, I want you to respect them, blah blah blah. So they'll have that conversation and you can have that conversation. If Especially if you're a woman, you can have that woman to woman conversation. Hey, what's going on? How can we fix this? What's going, and they would tell you either, this happened and this is why I'm not fond of you, or this. And sometimes it could just be a mother-in-law that's just jealous. You did nothing wrong. There's nothing about you personally, but it's just the fact that they may not want to give up their son. If you're a man, you may have to approach it a little bit differently than a woman would, but there could be many reasons why your mother-in-law or the mother of your partner is having issues, and it's best to have that conversation with them. All right. So again, number one, you talk to your partner about their mother. Then they have that discussion with their mother, and you have a discussion with your mother-in-law. And once you clear the air with that, the next thing would be to do is to have boundaries. I truly that a lot of people, they may set boundaries in their head, but they don't really have real boundaries. There's no line drawn. You're acting out. You are letting your emotions get the best of you. But boundaries are essential because then it becomes to the point of, well, are we disrespecting people or are you just not liking what I'm saying? If it's something that you just don't like and they haven't really crossed the line of disrespect, I think you can ignore certain things. But when there's a line of disrespect, I think then you draw a certain line of saying, if you start to disrespect me, especially if we have children, you can't be around my children. I'm a firm believer in if someone disrespects you, they they can't be around your children, right? Because I know a lot of people say, well, they're not going to disrespect the children. They're not going to do this to the children. But children are an extension of you. So they're going to be, and I would say if you're a man as well, if they are around your children and they're disrespecting you, you've allowed them to still have access to a portion of you. If you can't respect me, then you can't be around my children. And I think that that's essentially how your partner should be. If you can't respect them, then you can't be around me. So if my husband was having issues with my mother disrespecting him, then at the moment we all need to separate until you can get it together. You can't have access to me if you can't respect an extension of me. And sometimes I think the problem is the partner, like the actual child of the mother, does not set boundaries. So boundaries have to be set on both parts, not just the, the daughter-in-law, the son-in-law, but the actual child of that mother needs to set boundaries too. Because when you set clear boundaries of, this is where we draw the line of disrespect, this is where we can't allow you to say and do certain things, they will get the picture when there's a unified way of going about things. But when you guys are not united, it makes it easier for them to say, hey, my son or my daughter is right here with me. So you're the outsider. So if you're listening and you know that your mother is disrespectful to your partner, try to be unified in your responses. Try not to dismiss it, because the last thing you want is this tense, you know, bond when you guys are around. It's tense. Um, then they may say things to the children, and then the children may get in between that, and you don't want it to be tense. So please rectify that. So the reason why I'm discussing this is because a lot of times people have issues and they don't know who to go to, or they may just gossip to their friends about, the in-law. And we don't want that. We don't want it to, because when you gossip, then it just kinds of create this tense thing further. So you want to get to the point where we just clear the air. We get it out the way. We talk about what's bothering you, what's bothering this person, what's bothering that person. And then if it's not really something valid and you can't really help who you are, especially if you're doing things right, then we just need to set boundaries. Boundaries meaning you may not have access to me. You may not be around me, right? That means you can't be around your son or your daughter for the time being. When you can get yourself together and you can act like an adult, then we can all be around you. That means also our children can't be around you. That means you can't come to our house. Like, I think there has to be some type of boundaries. We don't mind giving consequences to children, but we fail to realize that some adults act like children and they have to have those same level of consequences. I'm not telling you guys to go wild with your emotions and curse people out. I'm not telling you that. But what I am saying is you need to have self respect. So you don't want people disrespecting you. You don't want to be with a partner that allows you to be disrespected. You want to make sure that you're having that open lines of communication with the in law, with your partner about what's happening, setting these boundaries of what's going to happen, and then move to the next steps. I talk about crossroads often, and crossroads is not something that you just do in a relationship. Nothing I say here is really just for relationship only or romantic relationships. Most of the things you can adopt in other forms of relationship. Crossroads can be with friendships, it can be with real relationships, it can be with business partnerships. So if you are at an area where there is, like in relationships, what we call deal breakers, if you are at an area where someone is crossing boundaries, what you consider disrespectful, what you consider is, abhorrent, you want to make sure the other person knows that you've crossed the line. So now there are going to be consequences. Either we're going to change for the better and we can keep this relationship and we can get better and form a relationship, or there has to be a cutting off period. And there doesn't have to be a full cutoff, like I'm going to cut you off and never speak to you again. But there has to be a level of distance. A lot of people don't like the term about loving from a distance, but sometimes you can love people, but you do have to distance yourself. You do. And a lot of people don't like it. But I think it's just like a form of timeout. Let's have a timeout from each other. And then once we get ourselves together, once you become the best version of yourself, and once I can deal with the healing that I need, then we can get back together. And sometimes it can be a traumatic event when you're dealing with people who are disrespectful, because a lot of times the partner as well is allowing the disrespect. So then there's the trauma of not feeling like your partner has your back. You feel like there's an emotional setback. So you kind of have to heal that relationship as well before you can just move on. So I truly believe that if we can understand, how to communicate, not just with our partners, but with our in-laws, our mother-in-law especially, then we can learn how to handle certain things. And there has to be crossroads. There have to be boundaries. There have to be consequences. A lot of times I'm hearing people, they're not married yet and they're dealing with the mother, and they have a child and they're still letting their child come over. They're still sitting there at the dinner table and still taking in on the emotional beating. We don't want that, because then what's going to happen is you are exposing your children to this type of behavior. You're exposing the children to see this emotional turmoil you're going through. And then what are we teaching our children? To allow certain behaviors, to accept certain behaviors. And we want to create an environment that children feel like not only they're supported, but they see that their loved ones are also getting the support they need. Think about children who grow up in homes where they have not been physically hurt, but their mother has, right? Or they have a sister or a brother, a younger, an older sibling that's hurt. The younger sibling can see it and they find it, it's still a traumatic event for them, even though they're not actually experiencing it. And this can happen when you are in a household and you're letting your children see emotional turmoil that you're going through. They'll say, oh, I remember when, grandma did this and daddy didn't do this, or, mommy didn't do this after this person said this about them. And then they learn to see what disrespect is and learn to tolerate certain behaviors. So then you in turn grow up tolerating certain behaviors. And this is why crossroads are an issue for you. So this isn't everything. So your friends, your family members, people you work with, people that are in your life, you want to create crossroads. You want to know how to handle them. And sometimes it's tough handling mother-in-laws, but you have to learn how to do it because they're actually a deep extension to the family. I know people look at it, oh, well, you're just the in-law, but especially if you have children, they're going to be around them all the time. This is your partner's mother. So this is a person that has a serious effect on the relationship. So they're not like some distant brother or some cousin. The parent-in-laws is extremely important, right? And they are essentially going to be the grandparents. If you don't have children yet, they are going to be the grandparents at some point. And even if you don't have children, they're going to be the parents that you see often. In many cases, sometimes people are far away and they're not around, but you want to make sure that you strengthen these relationships. I know sometimes people say, just ignore it. But sometimes it's hard to ignore it. And your relationships with your partner is going to be better when you can learn to deal with these situations. If they can't deal with their own mom, imagine other outside people and how this is going to tarnish the relationship when people don't feel protected. I talk about, we want men to offer stability and protection. Well, protection is not just physical protection. There's emotional protection, mental protection. You want to protect give that person peace, protect their peace, right? And you want to help them with these situations. So a lot of times we kind of ignore what our parents are doing. I think that with my husband and I, we're pretty open people and our parents are open. So it's easier for us to have that kind of conversation and that dialogue. But everyone doesn't have that style of communication. Everyone doesn't have an open communication where they're able to talk about what's going on with them and then properly trying to get through it. So if you're someone out there and you're having these issues with how to handle certain people, this is going to be the best way to do this with any situation. And so if it's not a mother-in-law, if it's a sister-in-law, if it's the best friend, because sometimes people have issues with, not feeling like you're on that inner circle. You don't get along with your partner's inner circle. Same thing. Having open lines of communication with your partner, having an open lines of communication with whoever this person that you have an issue with. Open up the communication. What's happening? What's going on? Why don't you like me? And I'm not saying you should care necessarily whether people like you or not, but there could be something that's said or done that maybe you guys need to clear the air. Again, get to the crossroads. Do we need to have this, relationship progress for the better, or do we need to have a cutting off period, especially if they're not going to change for the better? All right. We need to set boundaries. And usually, again, crossroads is when someone is crossing boundaries. So you have to set boundaries, both you and your partner. So I wanted to talk about that because I do think that this is a serious issue, especially for people who are getting married and they haven't had an open line of communication with people who are going to be an essentially important part of their lives as well as their children's lives. It's highly important that you know how to deal with people that are close to your partner, especially mother-in-laws, inner circles, and things like that, siblings, or siblings that are at least close to your partner. All right, so comment below. Tell me your thoughts. If you have different topics that you want me to discuss, I'm going to, again, try to bring my husband back. So if you have something that you want us to discuss as a couple, let me know. Put your comments in. If you're listening to the replay, you won't be able to put it on the live chat, but you'll still be able to put your comments in. All right, so I have another video that I'll be dropping in by the end of this week. Check me out also on the Philip Scott Show. I have some videos that'll be coming out there, right? So thank you so much for tuning in here. And I am going to head out because I said I didn't want my live streams to be long, but I want to know what your thoughts are. All right. So thank you for tuning in to Mrs. Danielle DeVita. You all take care. We live in a world where femininity, marriages, family, and courting is no longer valued. We live in hookup culture, situationships, and struggle love. The number one reason women struggle in long-term relationships, number one, femininity, And number 2, staying in a relationship or entertaining people longer than the woman should.
My name is Tania DeVita, and I'm a relationship and femininity coach. I've been married for 12 years, and I want to help you get on your feminine journey and vet for the right man today. For more of my content, you can visit MrsDanielleDeVita.com, or you can go to YouTube, Instagram, or my Facebook page. Get on your feminine journey today. Mrs. Danielle DeVita back with another video. I overheard someone say that marriage is overrated. A lot of women say, I like the strong, silent type. Well, a lot of men like the feminine, silent type. And for sure, it's going down. So a lot of times people are not getting the when to speak and when to be quiet is one of the most powerful. She's going to be aggressive thinking that. And as someone who's been married for 12 years, she's driven, not lazy. And this will make yourself and get on the right path. That understand that you might be doing a disservice to your daughter. If you don't help her understand vetting and proper decision making, now she's going to be a basket case later. If you don't help her understand emotional intelligence, she's going to hold on to a lot of emotional baggage. If you don't